Hi, I'm Russ Camarda, an independent filmmaker and actor in New York, and in between the chances I get to do my creative projects, I love to sit down and talk with other artists to see how it is they do what they do, how they take art and use their craft to reveal truth to an audience. So in this series of conversations, you'll meet some people you may recognize, some people you won't recognize, but they're all independent artists, and we'll get in depth in a long-form conversation to see how it is they do what they do. Welcome to Art Craft Truth. This time on Art Craft Truth, old friends and colleagues of mine, photographers Melisa Miracolo and Mike Lopacki. The East Coast market for event photography, specifically Long Island and New York City, is one of the most, if not the most, saturated, competitive, and artistic places to be a professional photographer in the world. And these two fantastic artists have been professional photographers in that market for over a decade. And as I said, I've gotten to work with them over the past 10 years or so and see firsthand how they use the art and craft of photography to truly deliver at the top level in this high-pressure business of events. Two of my favorite people in the world sit down and talk with me about the business and the technique behind the lens, Melisa Miracolo and Mike Lopacki. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
So welcome aboard. It's just so awesome. I know you guys for 10, 15 years now. I don't know how long. It was
Close
About
to,
that.
probably over a decade, right? Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I'd say probably 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
13, and we've been doing event photography and videography for all that time.
Long
longer.
time.
And longer, yeah.
See, me, I just popped in, and when I met you, and I was like, you popped my cherry when I came in the door. 2008, I think, or something like 2009. Yes,
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
So this is exciting for me because, like I said to you when I came in, I know you guys just out of that, but I want to get to know how you started. You know, well, I kind of know how you started, but I mean, how you guys started in photography, how you look at photography. We'll talk about like event photography specifically. We'll talk about some naked photography, which I'm really excited about.
Am I going to get naked?
Yeah,
We're kind of excited, Russ.
Mike might get naked for us. So
It happens.
Yeah, we're going to demonstrate actually later with Mike.
Oh,
yeah.
sweet.
I forgot to shave, though.
So let's start with you because I think you're of the three of us, you're the only one who went to school for this stuff, right?
Yeah, stupidly.
So yeah, right. What was the
I
point of
spent
that?
money on this.
So what was that about? Where did you go?
Well, I started at NASA and then transferred to CW Post. Thank God my parents didn't let me go immediately to Post because that would have been even more of a waste of money.
Right. So what was did you always want to be a photographer? Was that the idea?
Yeah, from high school I fell into it with film actually, and then, you know, I always said since I was a child I said I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. So then I went to Nassau and chipped away at everything I hated.
Okay.
I was like, nope, I don't want to draw anymore. Nope, I don't like ceramics anymore. Definitely don't like painting.
Right.
And then, you know, kept with it with photography.
So were you one of those? Because I think every young female goes through the photography phase, right? They go through the horse phase and the photography phase, where it's like you're taking pictures or you're.
I definitely did the horse thing.
Oh,
yeah.
did see? There you
Yeah.
go. All right. So all
You
right.
still do the horse thing, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But I had a professor that when we went in, she was like, if you bring me a picture of a duck, I will fail you. Like, I don't want to see any more pictures of ducks, swans, none of it.
So what was it about photography? What eventually pushed you down that road?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, a big part of the beginning of it was the magic of the darkroom, to, you know, watch your photo, you have to have no idea what you got, you know, have to develop the film, see
Right.
what you got.
Right.
If it was good, if it was in focus, if it was, you know, correctly exposed, because you had no idea.
Right.
And then to, you know, see it, you know, on a paper, you know, on form on the paper in front
Right.
of you.
So you're one of those few. I talked to a photographer a couple of weeks ago that in another podcast where you straddle the digital analog
Yeah.
border.
Yep.
And the chemical process, you know, using selenium to change your white balance and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So, did you still get to do any of that, or did that stop a long time ago?
Well, when I went to school for it, I felt like I went at like I had the perfect arc where I started in high school with film, went to college with film, and by the last 2 years of my college career, we switched to digital.
Okay.
So I got like a nice little
Right.
You know.
You were right on that.
Yeah, right on the cusp
that
of it. Yep.
transition.
So then when I came out of it, I still had my film cameras, but I was immediately going into digital, like for event photography. So.
Right.
But I did assist for photographers that were shooting film, so I had to change the backs and
So what were you assisting film photographers doing? Events?
Yep, for weddings. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you were changing their.
Yeah, there was a couple leftover
Yeah.
older guys.
I worked with those older guys. There's a few of us older guys left. And Mikey, you started. We all work we're freelance. We have our own businesses and stuff, but we share a common studio that we shoot for. We shoot events and parties and weddings and all kinds of things, and that's where I met you.
Yep.
And you started. You were like, weren't you doing video or something?
They had me just going on jobs and just figure it out. Either you're going to do photo here, video there, lay out the dress, and whatever we want you to do, you're going to do. You're a little go-getter boy is basically what it was. And it started with a lot of film first. I did a lot of video. Film era wasn't around anymore. That was not even a thing. I don't even know what that is. What's film?
Well, they wouldn't be shooting film for weddings.
Yeah, no, there's no film. But yeah, I started with video, and I was assisting on video, just basically coming on, helping them set up the lights and shooting second camera for a little bit. And then also one day I just picked up a DSLR and just started shooting some pictures at a wedding. And they're like, you see something? Right. I'm like, okay. I didn't know I saw anything. I was like, I'm just taking pictures, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm like, oh, there's a hot girl. Let me shoot that. Let me do this. That's what it was in the beginning. It's like, okay, some money and just kind of go with the flow of things. And they expanded from there into what I'm doing now.
What's amazing is because you guys come from two totally different starting points, you're two of the best photographers in the region now doing this kind of job. And I see a lot of work, obviously. You know, I work with a lot of different people, all kinds of people, from magazine type people all the way to everybody else. And you guys are right at the tippy top of doing the best stuff. But you came at it from completely different places. Yeah. So aside from the hot girls, did it immediately interest you? Did the immediate result? It was like, oh, cool, look at that, or what?
It was really like right away. I remember it was at the Loft in Manhattan. I remember literally being on the roof and I was shooting the party and I was just like messing around with the camera trying to get the Empire State Building in there. And I'm just messing around. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. How do you do this? How do you do that? Meanwhile, the person I was training on there shut automatic the whole time. And I'm over here trying to do manual the first day on there. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm like, I kind of get this. This is all right, cool.
Right. Best way to learn.
And it just went from there. You know, it kind of just took off and I just started assisting some more, shooting some more. And then within like a year of doing it, I was shooting events as like a main photographer within a year.
Yeah, you picked...
Which is pretty fast for an assistant picking up jobs.
Very, very fast. Yeah,
He's got the personality for it, too.
Well, that's the other thing we're going to talk about because there's different kinds of photography. And just like there's, mixed martial arts and boxing, you don't mix the two very often because somebody's going to get killed. Yep. So, you get the fashion photographer trying to get in an event photography. Yeah.
Oh, they don't got it.
They don't got it.
They don't got it.
I've seen it firsthand. They choke hard.
Yeah, no, they can't handle that. They can't handle the timing of it. It's very...
Yeah, it's a very specific...
Run and gun is the favorite word you always use. And absolutely, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's more equivalent... Event photography and videography is more equivalent to electronic news gathering. It's more like being out in Iraq... or Beirut when the bombs are going off. And
sometimes it feels like that if you got a crazy mom. The bomb's about to go off. You see her face.
That's right.
Those lights flicker and it's just her eyelashes going back and forth. Things happen.
And you have to do all the things that an artist does to capture it in an artistic way, but under a very specific, very difficult clock.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
high stress and physically demanding job. And it's a very special skill. So we'll get into that in a second, but I want to get into... Let me just hear you... I want to fix your mic a little bit.
Okay.
I think we got to pull this guy over a little bit more like this.
I'm a loud talker.
And then we're bring in...
It helps my job.
I don't want to freak Melissa out too much, but I got to move her mic in closer because she's mic phobic. All right, even though Mike is sitting next to her.
Surrounded by mics.
You just took my joke.
That's right. All right, I think we're good. Let's see. How do you sound, Mike?
I don't know. How do I sound?
We'll pull that in a little bit.
Towards or
towards
away?
you? Towards you.
Right there?
A little more. You get nice and close.
Right there?
Yeah, there you go. That's nice.
We're good?
Yeah?
Okay.
That should be good. That sounds okay.
I'm trying to keep my voice to a level where it's not too much.
It's just sexy enough for
I'm
me.
a little too much.
Yeah. No, it's a sexy voice.
Okay.
I feel it.
Okay.
I'm feeling the bass.
Levels are there.
So, all right. So let's talk about the actual craft of photography, non-specific to whatever kind of photography. Because the way I learned in cinematography and stuff is in composition and line. There's a lot of different aspects of how to create the picture, and the three different little triangle of exposure. You know, the back in film days it was the ASA. The film stock was actually the ISO.
Yeah.
The ISO.
Yep.
Yep.
You can change that.
You can't change that. You know, you shot 400 or you shot 800 or 200.
If you were really artsy, you shot 1600.
Whoa.
You got all that grain.
Yeah, right.
I guess grain was a good thing, right?
It depends.
And you know what? Grain, I guess, is coming back as a good thing. A
If
lot
you
of
could
people like
work
the
with
grain.
it. If you could work with it. There
Yeah.
was some photographers that could do it and some that could not.
and in photography more than film
Yeah.
and cinematography, you want it to be as clean as you could in cinematography.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the shutter speed and the aperture; those are your things to create the exposure, and then learning to work with light and learning to compose frames with lines and all that stuff. What were some of the things that you learned and that you still look at when you pick up the thing to shoot something? Let's say it's a portrait. Simple enough. What are the kind of things that you're trying to balance in your head as a creative artist for the tool?
Well, it really depends on what I'm trying to do. If I'm doing natural light, if I'm using artificial light.
All right, and again, for you guys, that's a those are technical skills that not everybody masters right away.
Yeah, I'm still learning. I feel like I'm always learning.
Absolutely.
There's always new, there's always something new happening or a new trend or, so it's always changing.
So let's say,
And it's evolution is the
Yeah.
word. We are constantly evolving in our atmosphere and what we want to accomplish and do, I feel like.
right.
It never just stops at one thing. It's like, listen, I'm just an off-camera light photographer. I'm a natural light photographer. It's the skill of learning all of it is the most important
Right.
because
Yeah.
all situations are different, I guess.
All right. So would you define yourself in one way or another? Would you say you tend toward one or another, a natural light?
Yeah,
or-
definitely. I tend towards natural light just because, it definitely is a lot harder to control light.
Yes. Right.
As we work for events, especially, you start to just know it. So like, we take couples out for night shots, backlighting, things like that. You start to just know your settings and know what you're going to do. But even yesterday, I was doing a boudoir shoot yesterday and my cousin was assisting me. And she does more video stuff. So she was messing with continuous light with it. And she was trying to create this like fall off of shadows. And I was just watching her and I'm like, I get what she's doing. I'm like, but I wouldn't have even thought to do that, the way she was doing it. And we did like a mix of that and then a mix of more natural light where it was just more of like a wall of light hitting her. So
Right. Do you prefer one or the other?
I find natural light easier or continuous light easier because you can
Continuous light.
see it.
Yeah,
You can
right.
immediately see.
So so flash photography and both on camera and off camera flash studio settings, and that's it's a little harder to know until you got the shot.
Yeah.
It's kind of trial and error till
Exactly.
you get the thing. You're really good at it. You're really good at the off camera lighting and the flash stuff. Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been getting away from it. I've tend to not like the look anymore. I feel like it depends what I'm doing. Let's say I'm doing a family portrait. I like a nice clean light on them with some off-camera light, just to fill the eyes in a little bit.
Right.
It's nice and easy going. But when it comes to natural portrait now, I prefer it to be no lighting on it all, just natural
Just
light.
whatever
where I'm looking for my background to have the color contrast to make sure they bounce off that. Where I have the compression I need and the depth of field is what I'm really looking for a portrait now.
Right.
Shooting open, I guess, is something that is really expanded that. Mirrorless has made life much easier.
All right. So we're throwing a lot of terms out there for people.
Sorry,
So
everybody.
that's okay. So shooting open means wide open aperture.
Yeah, open aperture.
Which in photography, when you open the aperture, you decrease the depth of field, so that for people who don't know what that means, it means the subject pops off the background.
Yeah, the background's blurry.
And the subject is, so the wider open that aperture gets, the narrower that depth of field becomes, and the subject pops more. So when you talk about compression, you're compressing that background to a blur so that the subject pops.
Yeah.
So you're shooting a lot of fast lenses, meaning big wide apertures, and
living on the 85 and the 35 right now. That's kind of where I live. I used to be a big telephoto guy. I've pushed away from it. Not just the fact that it becomes heavy over time and it becomes a lot on your body. Yeah. I just like the look of a clean 85 portrait. I feel like I just love that look.
Right.
And the 35 is great too because, you know, you might have to shoot wide open, but it does exaggerate your portraits, I feel like. It's something I try to do where, you know, I'm getting a scene in there and, you know, making the legs a little longer and things like that. You know, maybe I'm cutting some toes off over there. Who knows? But, you know, it's something that, like, I feel like those lenses right there with those fast speeds, it allows me to do a lot more things with the lower apertures.
Yeah,
that I can do in low light situations and stuff.
And like you said, especially for what we do, you know, if you're shooting those 70 to 200s, are like the lens is like this big.
It's huge.
You know, and the 85 might be this big, and the 35 might be this big. You know, so it weighs on you to get the same compression. You're not 400 yards away on a telephoto lens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the 85 is a great portrait lens anyway.
That was lovely.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good perfect focal length for that. So so when you're composing shots, let's say. Again, we'll use the portrait situation. You do a lot of boudoir, which I love the term boudoir. I call it my naked lady shots. I love boudoir photography. I like to be your assistant much more than I get the chance to be.
There's a line of guys that have requested that.
But
so
nobody, not one of them has put you on podcast.
You're on the top.
See, and I want to be in the portrait.
Yeah, he wants to be
Milk
in
bath. Milk bath for life. I've been talking about this forever.
You know what? I would pay to see that.
So a lot of people would, I guarantee it. A lot of people would. You'd be surprised.
So, like you said, when your cousin was assisting, when she's using continuous light, was she using like an LED or a hot light of some kind where the light's on? It's like a light like you'd see, like people would know that's what we mean by continuous light as opposed to a flash.
Exactly.
A strobe. And you can kind of manipulate that light and create the contrast and the shadows that you want.
Exactly.
When you're shooting that kind of stuff. And you got the frame. What do you look? How do you compose your shot? What are you looking for as an artist to compose shots?
Well, I guess quickly what's happening is I'm looking at the surrounding areas. Our coworker Jess has turned me into we call her the straight police because she always wants the images, the lines in the images to be straight. Yeah, she wants the horizontal lines to be straight, the vertical lines to be straight. So that's like the top of my list now. But I'm looking, for boudoir photography specifically, looking at 8 points of the body from head to toe, looking at their head, their facial position, their eyes, their mouth, their hands, their shoulders, their stomach, arching their back, their knees, their feet, every point of the body, depending on the type of shot, if I want to do closer, wider, if I'm cutting off the feet, at the ankles where they look like, it gives more of a distortion when you do it that way.
Sure.
And again, like that particular shot that I was doing yesterday where she was playing with the light, I had her weighted more towards the bottom of the frame, with a little bit more so that you see the light spilling down. Negative space, exactly.
So with the way when I'm shooting film and, doing some cinematography type stuff, what I'm always looking for, because I came from the theater, and in the theater, when you're directing in the theater, you're looking to direct the audience's energy. You're kind of, because they're literally sitting there, right? So they're in the room. So it's an audience participation kind of thing. And you're trying to move their heads and stage things up stage, down stage, and create these sort of lines where they have to reach with their eyes, reach and listen and look across. So you take that same approach to the still frame or the moving picture frame, where you're looking for lead lines.
Absolutely.
Things where the eye is drawn in. Is that kind of how you're looking, particularly when you're shooting wide landscape type stuff?
Sure. If you could find a great fence that leads to somewhere where you're looking down towards, whether they're semi further down and where the line leads to them, or they're in front of it, or the line's leading away from them, things like that. It just makes a more symmetrical looking picture, makes it more interesting for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody could put somebody in the open landscape and call it a day, but when you see a fence, you're like, oh, this is like a nice little line where you're shooting at a certain level up to them, where, still flattering, but, maybe on a lower level where they're kind of looking off, something like that.
And it kind of includes the viewer.
Absolutely.
They're in it.
Exactly.
You feel like you're
moves
taking
their
the shot.
eyes through the image. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like you want them to feel like they took that photo, like they're part of it, like as they took the photo.
Right. So is there, like you were talking about horizontal lines before. Do you care much about symmetry? Always symmetry? Are there times and places for it in the image, or is it like hard, rigid rules for how you know?
No, for me it depends on my mood. I mean, it depends on the mood. No, sometimes I usually don't like symmetry, but like I said, it depends on the situation. Like for event photography, we're in a church. I'm looking at every single part of the image that I'm composing, and I want, all right, I'm catching most of the light on this side. I want to catch the other light, the same way. That's when I want symmetry.
Great example. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's still not, because usually when I'm doing a shot like that, the bride and groom are smaller on the bottom and getting the, the vast.
It depends upon what the composition of the whole picture is.
Like you want to make sure, like if there's a stained glass over here, a stained glass over here, I wanted to make sure the stained glass is even on both sides, where it's not like one's vercocked over this way.
Yeah.
Like you want it to be perfect. I'm very OCD. A lot of people know that about me.
Yeah.
So like when I look at an image, like I want it to be that. Even if I shot it, like I'm gonna rush, I shot it kind of slanted a little bit, something like that. Like I know in post,
press the shutter.
I'm making it look like that if I have to. I try not to make it happen in post. I try to do it before, but sometimes life happens.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into the event part of it now, but before that, when was the moment that you said, I'm a photographer? Where you were in school, or you're out of school, or you're working the jobs, and you've been practicing, you've been shooting, maybe you've been getting paid for it, who knows? But there's a moment for all of us in our head where it's like, okay,
I remember it.
Okay, go for it.
It was July 7th, 2012.
Shit.
Yeah, I'm weird like that. You know that.
What time of day was it?
It was at Woodbury Country Club,
which no longer exists.
It does not exist anymore. Yeah. And I was actually shooting an event where they made me change my name. Because that person was supposed to be there, but whatever it was, and I was by myself, and I felt myself shooting it, and I'm doing these things, and I'm shooting them. I'm shooting these off-camera light shots, these on-camera light shots, which is on-camera lights. No one does that, but back then people kind of did that, and natural light, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm a freaking wedding photographer. Like this looks awesome. Like this looks really, really great. And I went home, I looked at it, I checked it, I'm like wow, I'm like this is really beautiful. I'm like I can do this job.
There you go.
I'm a wedding photographer, and that's exactly how I felt. Wow.
So it was right in the middle of a gig. And
it was literally during cocktail hour. I was sitting there. I'm hot. It was July, sweating. I'm like, I can do this. Yeah, I'm like, I just did that. I did all those portraits. I did that.
Wow.
I just made somebody's wedding.
That's incredible. And that was and
it might not have been July 7th. It was July 2012.
Right, well, I'm gonna go.
You probably are accurate. With
it probably is July 7th.
It's scary how accurate it is. Dates. He's like Rain Man.
How about you?
I feel like I definitely don't have a concrete moment.
Come on.
Mine was December. No. I don't know. I mean, I guess I felt more like I've said to people, I'm a photographer, but I feel like I have more of like imposter syndrome. I've been reading about that lately.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, because I still feel like I don't know. I still I doubt myself. I still question, how I do it, why, and I have like colleagues, and they're like, that shot's gorgeous. I'm like, nah, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this question: Are you paying your mortgage and your rent or with your photography?
I am, and so that's why I say it, because I'm like, I am getting paid for it. I don't know why they're paying me for it, but I'm getting paid for it.
And you get pretty well for it too. She's got it. She's very, very humble about how good she is as a photographer. Right. Like it's ridiculous.
And what you guys are got to remember, and for anybody listening and watching, to brag a little bit about where we're doing this from. This is the top market in the world.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For especially event photography.
Yeah, most saturated.
Yeah, most saturated market. New York, Long Island, whole tri-state area.
Yep.
And so if you're kicking it and doing 95, 100 jobs a year, whatever we were doing there at our peak there, where you're just blasting away, you're a photographer, and your work is
that's what this year was looking like. It was looking like 80 plus jobs, and the first half kind of slipped away a little bit, but when May and June hit, whew,
Yeah.
we're going to be tired this
Yeah,
year.
that's the thing. Well, I can tell you right now, I'm completely out of shape for this.
Yeah.
I have not,
Yeah.
I'm not. My
Yeah.
body's not ready to handle that.
That's
For
what
sure.
2020 did to me.
Yeah.
Taught me that I hurt now when I hold a camera.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. Okay. So let's talk about event photography and videography specifically, how we do this. And like I said before, it's a very specific kind of photography because when you're looking at some beautiful landscape photographer, or you're looking at Annie Leibovitz and some beautiful portrait photographer, or you're looking at, Avedon or whoever, a magazine photographer, Rolling Stone photographer, and you're looking at that, those are great. Vanity Fair, great for off-camera.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Some beautiful, amazing work that these people do. But then you put us out in Beirut and Iraq,
Yeah.
in a 12-hour day,
Yeah.
where there's 4 locations, and it's their one chance to get their one day recorded right. And it's not just a matter of recording the pictures; it's a matter of doing it with art and with real craftsmanship under a tremendous amount of pressure in a very small amount of time. Talk about the first times you did that. And the clock in your head and all. Just talk about your first experiences where it was like, oh, okay, so this is how we do this.
Well, I mean, I assisted for a long time, so there were. Well, I think the thing that was most scary was family pictures and making sure you get all those combinations.
Right.
Because if you miss one.
Yep.
Right.
But the people the guys I would assist, regularly, they did it a certain way, and it became almost like a formula in my head still to this day. I do it that way for the most part. Right. I've gotten better where I can, I'll build it up and then reverse it back down too. But
so let's talk. What she's talking about is, on an event when you're doing family portraits. There's mom, there's dad.
Why are you laughing, Russ? What's going on? What are you thinking about right now?
Because I'm thinking just.
You thinking about a Saturday in July 7th, 2012?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I have nightmares of some of these things, but
Yeah.
for you guys, it's really assembling. And sometimes families are split. There's
Yeah.
divorces. This one doesn't want
Yeah.
to stand next to this one, but you try and get every possible combination of those families, and sometimes you don't have the time to do it, the space to do it, the location to do it. And it's what's interesting that you said about that you do it a certain way is you guys, I work with all of you, right? I work with dozens and dozens of events, and you all do it differently.
Yeah.
You all have your own sort of, way you assemble. Some start with big groups and whittle down to little groups.
Yep.
Some start with one side, then build up, and it's all this fascinating way, but it's all time management in your head, right? About how to do it. What was your first, like was that one when you were on your own where you knew how hectic it was, or did you really know that before that?
I knew before how hectic it was because honestly, I learned a lot of what not to do from the people I trained under. Is that a bad thing to say?
No, you could say it.
I mean, I don't know if they're watching right now.
That's not what one of them would say.
Yeah, that's true.
I learned everything. But sorry, people at home who know what I'm talking about. But, I learned what not to do in certain situations. I learned to be kind and be personable with people. And, if you're calm and kind and you reflect that attitude, it makes it easy to do the portraits because they feel that from you.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, hey, come on over. Like, come on in, Mom. Touch over here, da-da-da. And, that calming personality is something I learned to do that because, there's some photographers you work with, they don't have that calm.
Right.
Like, they're like, oh, my God, I got to get this. I got to do this. Did you get that? Did you get this? And it's like, I don't want to be like that. That's not who I am.
Right.
I'm a generally calm person in high stressful situations because I know I have to be.
Right.
And I've seen it from other people, so I knew going into it how to plan and be that way. I would study what we call the job sheet beforehand. I know everybody's names before I get to the job.
Right.
I know who your sister is. I know who your husband is. I know all that. I want to know that information. When I first started working and I was doing this, I wasn't getting all the information. I was like, can I have that?
Yeah.
Because it made my job easier to know that stuff, it felt like.
Right.
That's how I kind of approached it.
Yeah, and that's the other part of the job too is, you're kind of part therapist.
Oh yeah,
because they're under the highest stress of their lives, their wedding day or their whatever day it is, whatever event it is, and they've never done it before.
No, well, some have.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I like those are my favorite.
Yeah,
ones.
those are actually the better ones.
Those are
My last wedding.
Yeah, I like the ones
Yeah.
that it's there's
They're a lot more low key.
Yeah, second, third time around because usually it's in one location too. I like
Yeah,
those.
yeah.
But yeah, you're trying. You have to be the voice of reason for people who don't know what's going to happen next. And what people don't realize about what we do is we're the one vendor on your event that's with you the whole time. You know, the makeup comes and goes, the flowers come and go, the food come and go, the band comes and go, but we're there from the beginning
To the end.
and then 30 years later.
And then after and before, like, you know, in my situation, you know, Melissa sometimes as well, like with her own weddings and things like that, we're there from the first day they book that event and holding their hand.
Right.
That's one thing I emphasize all the time to my clients, you know, whether it be through, you know, a studio I work for or for myself, that, you know, I'm here with you. Call me. Use me. I've done this 300 times in the last 3 years. Like, I know what I'm doing. Let me help you get through this.
Right.
And I sat with a couple last night, for example. They are doing a small backyard wedding. They had no idea what's going on. And I literally planned their entire wedding for them in a half hour.
Right.
And they're like, holy crap. Like, that was pretty easy for you. I'm like, yeah. Don't worry about it. I got you.
It helps when you do it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got into an argument with my nephew yesterday, 8 years old. He's been to 3 weddings. So he knows
That's right.
how it goes. I was like, okay. You want to know how many I've done? I can't tell you that answer because it's been thousands.
I did 3 last weekend.
Yeah, right, exactly. So when you're in that situation, is it tough to be artistic?
Yeah, I mean, you know, stuff definitely gets cut out, you know, because you always have to get the bread and butter first. You have to get the stuff that you have to get before you can get creative. But, you know, usually, you know, that's like the way I work. I try and get the stuff I have to get first and then, you know, steal away with the bride and grooms. You don't have to get too creative with like the families. You just got to keep it light, fun, moving. Bridal party, you can get a little bit more creative. But, you know, with the bride and groom, that's where you can get creative. And I've learned to move very fast and, you know, already have ideas of what I want to do next and kind of have it planned out and jump around very quickly to get it done. So,
Yeah. I tend to see with the family portraits, in order to make them have that little more candid feel to it, I feel like, you know, even sometimes I'll just take like a step off to the left and be like, smile and laugh at each other, something like that. But otherwise, if I keep my jokes light and I keep them laughing, they look at each other, they laugh, and that's like when I'm snapping those moments. And I feel like in the end, that pays off because you're not really wasting time. Right. You're getting your portraits. Meanwhile, you say something silly or funny, and they laugh, and you get this moment that happens, and that's the money. That moment.
That's the truth.
That's the real moment. Like, you're like, oh man, like, you know, all right, cool, I got that moment. All right, good, perfect. And, you know, instead of it being like cheesy, oh, look at your mom, smile at her, which, you know, sometimes we obviously all do that. But the natural moment where they smile, laugh at each other is what you really want in that situation. Like, organic.
What's the best part of shooting the event day? Like, what's the part where you go into the gig and you're looking forward to it? Where, like, once I get to this will be cool. I'm looking forward to this. What is that? Is there a particular part of the job where you're like...
The bride and groom portraits.
Yeah.
It's just literally getting your chance to take them out.
Because that's when you get to really have fun. You know, that's... Especially if time permits, you know, that's when you can play around a little bit. You know, it's just you and the couple. You know, most of the time, you know, you could joke around a little bit more. You know, I'm known to, like, I get excited and I'm like, oh, let's go over here. Oh, let's go over there. Oh, I like that. Oh, this looks awesome.
All right, so let's talk about that for a second.
That's a fact,
So what? Yeah, I've seen her do it. I've seen her do it. So what is
her tail wags and everything.
So what is it for you that does that? What is when you get that little tail wagging? What is it usually? Is it something you see? Is the way a light is hitting something? Like, what is it that let's do this?
It depends on the situation. It could be like if, you know, the light's cool and I get exactly what I envision in my head, or if we're in a new place. That's when I get really excited, when I'm in someplace new. A lot of photographers will, you know, especially like when they're competing with each other, event photographers. Oh, you want to get somebody that's been to the, you know, the venue, that knows the venue. Yeah, to some degree, but the part of the being a professional is being able to, doesn't matter where you are, you have to be able to assess it immediately. You know, the light's different every single time you go to the same event, you know, same venue anyway. So, so I'm more excited to go someplace new and get excited to, you know, have new For me, I mean, it doesn't matter to the couple. It's new for them, but for me,
Yeah.
and I say that to them too. I'm like, it doesn't matter for you guys. I'm like, but this is exciting for me. I like this.
All right.
Yeah.
So what is it?
For me, it's light. I mean, light has been something that when I first started, I was a picture taker. I'm going to be honest. This is something that our boss says to us. This guy's a picture taker, and I felt that way. And then honestly, you had a lot to do with that, like the way that you looked at light, and you're like the flare and this and that. And I really learned how to use that and incorporate that, and mix with what you taught me and what I've learned from just watching YouTube videos, just seeing things and watching other photographers, and learning that, like, that kind of excites me.
Yeah.
Pretty corny, but true. Like,
Yeah.
if I see a great light peering through a tree, and I know that I can have them, like, kind of like having this moment with each other, and meanwhile I'll get this, like, flare come in and this, like, star thing come through, like, their head and things like that. I love that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like boner city for me. I mean, I don't get boners on the wedding.
No, well,
But,
come on. We don't have to talk about all the times we work together.
But things like that, that excites me. Like that is exciting, and it's a learning process. Like I said, every wedding is different. The light is different everywhere. If I go in, I know the goal is backlighting is the number one thing I'm looking for when it comes to a portrait. Backlight.
Right. So let's explain backlight to people. That's when, whether you're using an off-camera flash or whether you're outside and you're finding that sun, because the normal civilian looks at, when you're taking a picture outside, they're putting the sun right in somebody's face.
Right in their eyeballs.
So because they're like, well, that's where the light's coming from. It's like, but you want that light behind them to give them a hair light, frame them, separate them from the background, and then you fill in with either some kind of a bounce of that backlight or a flash. So we're always looking for that golden backlight, to separate.
Delicious.
Delicious.
So delicious.
It is delicious. It is delicious.
Golden grams all day. Like, I love it. I love it. And sometimes you don't even need that fill light, because the light is just so beautiful in some areas where maybe it's a shade area, but that light's just creeping in on the hair. Like, you don't even need the back. You don't even need the fill light at all. Like, it's just there already. The money's there.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing. Like, you can use sun to your advantage, obviously, in their face. To be a great portrait photographer, you have to take advantage of sun, too. Like, it's there for your taking.
Right.
They don't have to look directly at it, but it's there for you to take advantage of.
Now, here's a question, because this is what separates the women from the girls and the men from the boys.
Men from the boys.
Is because you're out in an event situation. You're in, like I said, you're out. It's like electronic news gathering. It's run and gun. It's you're not in control of the day, where you go, we're going to shoot your job at 5:35 when the sun set. You don't control that. So
you can try to.
You can try.
Yeah, sometimes.
You can try to, but for the most part, you're at the mercy of what's happening. And it's a summer day, and church finishes at 1, and the sun is directly over the top of your head. It's the worst, harshest light. You have to know how to deal with that. What are some of the ways that you can deal with it as a photographer when you're not in the most ideal situations? It could be light, it could be whatever. What are some of the ways you kind of find yourself?
I feel like the first thing we always try and do is find shade, because especially when it's like high noon or like 1 o'clock, that's always the absolute worst, because you can barely use the sun as backlight at that point. Always find shade, but otherwise you have to have pretty powerful fill light, to compete with the sun. So if you're on a beach, and there's no shade, although
that's the stuff nightmares are made of.
Yeah.
12 o'clock, high noon in the summer on the beach. Oh my God.
I want the water in the background. Well, you're not going to be able to see me. All right.
That's right. And that's when you need the off-camera light.
You kind of need it. You kind of need that situation, unless you want just completely whited out photos, which is cool. Some people love that look. I'm not gonna knock anybody who likes that. I like a little bit more color in mine. That's me personally.
Right.
But that looks very popular now. That all white out, whitewashed look.
I have an interesting theory on that. It's what they call the sun-drenched look.
I like to hear this.
Or what the photographers who are I'm a natural light photographer.
Sun chaser.
Yeah, it's like, does that mean you don't know how to use the flash?
Yeah, that's kind of what I go.
And what happened is that became sort of the regular jobs that were booked. So, like by default, it became this sort of aesthetic that clients liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, but did you really see what it could look like if you could see the sky?
Yeah.
There was somebody that we we follow on social media that posted a picture and was like, this is the best sunset picture I've ever, and we were like, there's no sunset. It's white and just like a little halo of orange from the sun. This is not a sunset.
Right.
No, it's not a sunset.
Yeah.
But, to some, that is their aesthetic and that's their look. So I don't knock anybody who likes to do that.
Yeah.
No.
Each his own.
I'm just telling you where
beauty's
I
in
think
the eye of the
from.
beholder.
Yeah.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I
Right.
truly believe that. And some people love that look, and to each his own. Like, absolutely.
Right.
Some amazing photographers that make some buku bucks.
Yeah.
That shoot that style, and it's very popular.
Yeah. Well, it is very. I tend to think that all those things like that are. It's like there's different tools for different things. So if you're, and again, I come from a performance background and a theater background, a film background, so everything is related to the story. What's the story you're telling? So even when I do a podcast like this, or when I shoot a film, or when I do a play, whatever it is, when I shoot a wedding, I'm looking for the theme. I'm looking for the story. What's this about? And if I can latch on to something that sounds like a through line, like a thread of like, oh, this is a common theme I'm seeing. Mom behaves this way, daughter behaves that way. They like to stay, I now play that in my shot. I'm looking to set the shot up to serve the story. So if they're a light and airy couple, if they're a effervescent couple, you wouldn't want to do the hard Vanity Fair.
No, it's not who they are.
You want that. So I think they're all just tools, to serve
They
the
are
story.
too.
Yeah,
And you have to have
absolutely.
them all in your bag.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
You need to have them on your bag because, I catch myself. I love that look sometimes. Like, I would say I'm leaning more towards that look most of the time now at this point. That's
Now,
kind of like how I like to shoot.
Do you think that it's better as a photographer? I think. But do you think... Is your mug talking to you?
Yeah. It wants me to drink.
Please pick that up. Can you make it do that again, or does it just do that by itself? So
Still going.
your mug is telling you when to drink water?
Yeah, because I don't drink enough water. So usually what I do is I go, you got it, and then I leave it there.
My lips just tell me. My lips are like, you're dry as hell, man. You used to drink some
I'm
water.
going to tell you, that's some fucking AI. That's some artificial intelligence shit. That's got to stop right now.
It will. Now that I drank, too.
I'm sorry, Dave. You're dehydrated. That's fucking bizarre.
That's my phone's going off. That's going off. My watch is going off. All things. Drink water.
Oh, all right.
I did good today. I finished the bottle.
That's intense. Back to what I was talking about. Do you think because there are some one-trick ponies out there that it's like, this photographer does this.
Yep.
Would you value having more tools, or do you focus on one thing that you do, or do you like to be versed in all the different kinds of ways to do it?
I mean, again, with event photography, I feel like you have to be. Like, these light and airy photographers, yeah, that's great for California where it's sunny all the time. But it's not the case here. So you can't always have a beautifully backlit sun shot. So like a photographer, a wedding photographer that we both admire, her name is Vanessa Joy. She has a whole trick where she fakes the sun on a rainy, snowy day, and she'll
puts
fake
a strobe back there.
Yeah,
It's great.
with the orange glow, and it's beautiful. I've done it a couple of times. I did an engagement shoot in a thunderstorm. We did that. So,
And you just put in like a speed light or a strobe with a gel on it?
yeah,
and
It's great.
with a full
power blast.
Yep.
Yeah.
And shoot into it, and you get the flare, and it looks like the sun in the background.
All right.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Great technique. But what if it's raining?
Yeah. That's again another photographer that we
I'm curious
follow.
to what it looks like, when it's raining. Like, what do you do? I would like to see, how they do their thing with that.
But I guess my question is, when you get clients in the event world, are they looking for your style? Or are they saying, can you do this? Can you do that? I like these, I like that. Or are they saying
It's 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 50-50. Some people come in and like, I'm looking for something more on the lighter side of things. Because you show them some work and you're like, oh, no, I'm not really looking for that. Okay, not a problem. How about I show you this gallery? What do you think of this? Oh, this is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
See, I tell them all the time, it's not always how it's shot as well. Like, you can shoot almost any type of way you want, but in the end, it's about post-processing a lot of this too.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to editing process, like, when your greens are muted, there's not really that color out there. You're just muting the greens post-process.
Right.
But you go in and be like, listen, I know you like light and airy. I can do that for you. That's not a problem. Let me accommodate you in your day. But, on a day that it rains a little bit, you have to give me a little liberty to do these things where I want to backlight with a strobe and get some rain in the picture and light shoot properly in the front. Like, I need to have the accessibility to do that for you.
Sure.
And trust me.
Right.
Most people do.
Right. So let me ask you this question, talking about post-processing, because you came from the film, you learned in film in the darkroom, doing it with chemicals. It's a whole different process. If you want more blue in your whites, you're putting this in. If you want more, you're doing different things in the final bath and all this stuff. And,
Oh, we have different chemical experiences.
Yeah. I got a bag of chemicals in there. We'll talk about that later. But when you're shooting, are you thinking about the post process? Are you thinking, I can do this later, as long as I get this, or are you trying to get everything you can in camera?
For the most part, trying to get everything I can in camera. I want to do as little as possible afterwards. I want to get it exactly how I want it to look in camera.
Right.
And that's another thing. I mean, that's another thing that comes from film, because I want it to be right from the start.
Right.
We used to spend hours and hours and hours editing. And we're just spending all this time, like, when we could be doing plenty of other things. Just get it right in camera. But there are certain times where, certain scenarios, lighting, I'll intentionally underexpose my images, make them darker, so that way in post I can make sure that my highlights aren't too blown out, the brighter parts of the images, so that way I can bring it up, bring up the shadows and make it a little bit more even.
Right.
But for the most part, I want it correct in camera.
Right.
I like when people ask me to do things that I don't normally do. Like, someone's like, I like a darker, moody look. I love the challenge.
Right.
I love that. I'm like, you know what? I do want to delve into that environment a little more. I want to shoot that way a little bit more. I love some work. There's some great photographers I see doing that kind of style. I'm like, it's beautiful. I love it. My wife's infatuated with it. Things like that. I'm like, this is gorgeous. As well as
just like high contrast, almost film
contrast,
noir,
very
kind of
warm, and it just has this very tone to it that's just very beautiful. His name is actually Mike Kusara. I follow him all the time religiously on Instagram. His work is stunning, amazing work. I look at it, I'm like, I don't know if I could do that, but I want to try.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to give it a shot.
Yeah.
But my clients really haven't asked for that kind of look. They like my more colorful, vibrant, lighter kind of look. That's what they're looking for. That's why they're calling me.
Right,
they're going to call him if they want that.
Yeah.
But I still want to do it.
All right.
That's something I strive for, expanding myself. I want to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk. We talked about the artistry of it, but let's finish up with the event part of it, which is the structure of the day. And I'll lay out a particular structure of a day, and you guys jump in wherever you want to say how fucking hard this is. But in a typical New
This
York,
is why I try to plan most of the weddings, Russ, just so you know.
I know.
What do I do, about 300 a year, I feel like? It's like, I want to make sure we have the time we need.
Yeah.
Especially you.
Yeah, especially when I'm on it, because I tend to lose my shit. People know that first of all, you don't drive with me. That's number one. That's always a mistake. But so in a typical New York style event day, let's take a wedding, for example. You're starting with the bride and or the groom, possibly.
It could be both.
Could be both. Could be in two different locations, getting ready.
Getting a lot more of that these days, especially with micro weddings.
Yeah.
They're getting ready, and
They don't want the second photographer. They don't want to pay for it. They feel like it's not necessary.
so you're bouncing. You're driving to one location, then to another. If they're in the same hotel, it's two different floors, whatever it is. But you're starting with them getting ready, and that's
A lot
all
of it.
makeup and all the getting ready stuff. Then you're bouncing to, let's take a church wedding.
Okay.
You're bouncing to a church, right? Somewhere else where you got to find parking and get out. And typically you're with that bride getting ready till the moment, she's dressed and now you're doing
Pretty
portraits
much.
with her and she's ready to go out the door. You got to get to the church before there to get her coming, right? Now you set up all your shit at the church. You
Find parking, depending on the scenario.
depending if it's Brooklyn or something.
Oh, my God.
And you shoot the church, and now the church is over, maybe you have some time for portraits, but the next thing is going to be, let's say it's a park or it's someplace where they want to do their portraits.
What day of the week is this?
Let's
Yeah.
let's make it really sucky. Let's call it a Friday.
Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend.
Oh my God.
And church is 3:00 or 4:00. It lets out at 5
In Manhattan.
and you got to go to a
I'm about to
venue
throw
out
up on your couch right now.
You got to go to a venue out east in traffic, and the bride and groom don't understand why they didn't get their portraits done. You know, and everything time is compressed in a ridiculous way, and then you got to get to a venue where you then have to unload, set up, do some more portraits and pictures, and get ready for a party that's going to go till 12:30 or 1 in the morning. So you're talking about a 12-hour day, 4 different locations, incredibly time compressed, with, you know, a typical thing is 150 guests, let's say 200 guest party. You're dealing with other vendors, you're dealing with crazy DJs, you're dealing with all kinds of things.
The band, not the DJs.
Well, don't get me started on the band, because they take your food.
Take your food.
They definitely take your food.
I've gotten yelled at by so many of them and yelled right back.
Hey, bands, don't take my food anymore, all right? We know about it. Trust me, we know what cars you drive. We watch for you.
There have been a few, as Mike knows, that there was almost a problem.
Oh, yeah. Connecticut.
Yeah.
Connecticut. I remember Connecticut. Oh,
you can talk about that.
Oh, Viennese, Connecticut.
The Viennese, they almost had a problem with me. But so you're having all of this time, right, compressed into these incredibly tense situations, and it's their one shot. You know, it's not take 2, cut.
Yep.
You know, come down the aisle again, honey, or Dad, do the speech again. You know, that doesn't happen. So explain to folks what that's like and what it's like to be creative and at the highest level in the most saturated market in the world and deliver the beautiful stuff you're delivering under those conditions. That's not, let's go to the studio and set up a model with some pro photos and a couple
It's not that at all.
So explain what that, how long did it take you to get, I know you assisted for a while, but to where you're like, I got this, you know, put me in the Army, put me in coach, I can do it.
I mean, it's definitely hard. It's so difficult. I mean, you know, we get our info sometimes and we look at the day, we go, oh my God. But you kind of just map it out in your head exactly what you're going to do and, you know, be as creative as possible. And that's how I learned to work quickly and think fast and know my settings before, you know, before the scenario. Like the one event I can think of is the one where we started in the Bronx. We had to go to Manhattan, then we had to go to Central Park, and then we had to go to the Swan Club, which the bridal party and the bride got wasted, didn't make it to the cocktail hour, had to be carried. Yeah, that was a fun day.
It was.
But yeah, you know, like I saw the info for that job and said we need somebody in the car because we're not going to be able to find parking. We all carpooled. Like,
and when you saw my name on the job sheet, did you know that
Russ can't drive? I'm driving.
This is going to be a problem. if we let this guy behind the wheel, somebody might get killed.
You need a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
That particular day, Eddie, my fiance, sat in the car. His butt was in the seat for 9.5 hours.
Very appreciative.
Before we got to the venue.
Yeah.
He was car sitting.
So when people wonder whether wedding photography and wedding videography costs what it should cost, it's like, all right, do all of that, right?
Yep.
Physically do all of that.
Yeah.
And be a creative artist knowing how to control light with aperture, shutter, ISO, 16 different lenses, 2 different cameras, 17 different lighting situations, and a venue that says you can't shoot there, shoot in the closet because 6 other brides are coming through here, and there's so many things that go on that we have to control and be personable.
Yeah, and be fun and peppy and bubbly.
Right. Hey, happy wedding day.
Is it weird that I like it?
See, he's a freak. He's a freak.
Unicorn. I don't know.
I mean, there's some events that are like, holy shit. Like, I'll never want to do it again. Her and I shot one together in Jersey. Oh. Never again. It was 13 and a half hours. And when I tell you the family portraits were 2 hours long, never again. I was dead. Like, I was like, never again. But like, I love the challenge of like, all right, you're with the groom here 30 minutes. You're with the bride for an hour and a half. Church, stop here, go there, do this. I like planning it.
Okay. Yeah, it takes a special head to do that.
I like it. I like talking. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this together.
Right.
But you can have this day at 12 hours and feel very rushed and incomplete and not get exactly everything you're looking for, or you can do it in 14 hours. I know it sounds scary. It sounds very scary. But you do it this way, it's going to cost you a lot more money, but in the end, you're going to get what you want, and it's going to be easier on all of us. Not just you, but me. And that's going to provide better, more artistic photos for you.
Right.
You know?
The only part about it I like that I find challenging, aside from finding that theme that I'm looking for creatively in the framing of what I'm trying to do, and it's rare that I get that the way I want it. But what I like is, because I've worked with photographers who, again, came from other disciplines of photography, and they don't have the internal clock. And there's an internal clock you develop doing this for so many years.
Yep.
I've done it for 25 years or whatever it is. You're like, okay, I'm at the bride's house, I'm at the groom's thing, I have 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, I know that I'm shooting details of cufflinks or I know I got 3 minutes worth of that.
Yep.
Done. Got to get it. I'm done in that. We're not lingering around playing with this.
There's no lingering allowed.
Because now I got to get the girls in their robes, and that's 5 minutes.
Yep.
And you have this internal clock of how long each thing takes, because you know where you got to go next.
Yep.
Am I going to be able to park there? Where's the entranceway? What equipment do I have to bring in? What do I have to set up? What do I have to do? For you guys, it's flashes. For me, it's microphones and blah, 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 blah. So you have this like internal clock laid out to know what you have to do.
Yep.
I find that stressful, but entertaining to myself when I'm on a job.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
but then
I can make this happen.
Then there's scenarios where you have to just throw that clock out the window.
You absolutely do.
Because the bride doesn't like her hair and it's going to be redone now. Or,
yeah.
There was a wedding that we
That
did
is so
where
true.
it was 2.5 hours of the bride getting her hair done. We had to cut out going to a location because
Yeah.
her hair was fire.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it was-
glad you like your hair. You have less pictures now.
Right.
Yeah, my hair's fire. You're like, yeah, I'm about to burn your fucking hair. Let's go.
So there's like a give and take with it too. You have to know when to push and when to let it go, and
and you're trying to be cooperative with other vendors. When you show up at a bride's house in Queens and you look at the job sheet and you just know just where you're going and what you're doing, that this is not going to, first of all, it's not going to start on time, and it's probably going to be about an hour longer than you think.
Yep.
For sure.
And the hairdressers, and typically, and I love the hairdressers. I love you guys. I love makeup people and hairdressers. I'll use that as a, I love you all. But typically, you guys you're artists as well, and you take your time sometimes, And
Some do.
that clock in the head goes right out the window.
Some are very conscious,
I'm
though.
starting,
Some are very conscious,
I'm
yes.
starting to notice the ones who really do it for weddings specifically
Right,
versus
right.
they do makeup
Yes.
and they work,
Again.
And that's
just
why we
do
ask
makeup.
beforehand, too. Who's your makeup artist? Who's your hairstylist?
Mm-hmm.
And you see, like, Christiane Cosmetics. Oh, yeah, she's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
We're going to be great. We're going to be on time for sure. I think it's going to be perfect. Then you hear, my hairstyles at Haley Jones hair updos / partytime.com.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit.
This could be a long
I think we need a half-hour buffer, guys, in case. Let's buffer this a
Tell
little
them
bit.
you need to be ready by 12 when
Right.
you really need to be ready by 1.
And
Yeah.
again, that goes to the gig-specific technique. This is a very specific craft, event work. And people in all the disciplines of that have to be versed in that.
Absolutely.
You don't want... It's like, well, my cousin's a DJ.
Yeah.
And you're like,
My brother's going to DJ.
he's going to run the party, And it's going to be
Yeah.
a mess when you get there.
Yep. Yeah.
Give it up for the groom.
The horn. I can't stand the horn. Yeah.
The good times that we have.
Yes. So it goes the same for photographers and videographers. There are videographers that we work with, especially the younger guys who started with the DSLR craze, who are multi-camera guys, and there's 17 fucking video guys coming in there, and they think they're shooting a movie. I love the gimbals and the steady cams and the cranes but guys, You know, I always, as I tell you guys all the time, and I wonder how you feel about this as photographers, because you're much more involved directly with actually dealing with the client than I would want to be. But I learned, number one, shoot everything they pay for. That's rule number one. But but beyond that, the room should be more empty with me in it. That's how I look at my job. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm documenting the truth in an artistic way, but you shouldn't worry about me. You shouldn't be thinking about me. If I'm pulling you out like the photographer and I'm setting up, I want to set up this shot and I want to do a spin around and I want to fly my fucking drone over your head. I mean, I think it takes away from the sanctity and the beauty of their day. I should be documenting the day. And there's a whole wave of sort of wedding cinematographers, and they create beautiful work. Don't get me wrong. But
there's a way to still do it like that, and still
there is. And you got to know how to do that.
That's why I try to help you guys. I don't know if it works for you with how I work, but generally, like, I want to set up shots for video. Like, I want to know the shot that I'm creating is for video as well, where it's like, you know what, wrap your arms around her waist. That's not for me. I don't care about that. That's for you guys, because I know in the end, that's where the action is going to be. Like, give me a shot where you're yelling and laughing and screaming. Like, yeah, that's a great moment for me to capture, but in the end, the video is going to see that. And I want that to be for you without having you to have to worry about time for yourself. We do it in tandem.
And again, that's the goal. It's knowing the gig. That's the biggest gripe I have with events is, and that's why I like to work. That's why I love working with you guys. I love working with all the people we work with. Is you know there's a shorthand. Everybody knows the job. Everybody knows the clock. Everybody knows what we're trying to achieve, and what each guy's got to get to make it work. And that's my biggest thing with events is you know, 'cause I want to be removed and not bother anybody. So.
Well, that's how we should be. We should be documentary. That's it. Like, like sometimes, obviously I like to talk. You could tell, obviously, from here. But, it's about also being not heard at all. Like, just letting it happen on its own, the whole thing. And I tell them, like, listen, I got to do what I got to do to get you what you need to get. During the party, you're not even going to talk to me. We're not talking. Unless you want something in particular, I'll bring it to you, whether it's a group or something like that. But always, I'm capturing this as candidly as I can. And I want your wedding day to be that way as well. Like, yeah, I might direct you, but in the end, you're going to make it feel natural and candid and organic on your own. Be yourselves. I can't make you be funny. Like, right. I can't be that for you. Like, I can do it to influence it, but in the end, you have to be yourself. And that's how you get these natural, candid moments. Otherwise, you're never going to get it if you want me to do all the work for you.
Right.
But in the end, I don't want to be there the whole time. I want to be back. Getting ready, very straightforward. It's very candid, the whole getting ready.
Yeah.
The church, you're not doing anything. Ceremony, you're not saying a word. You're not even seen half the time.
Right.
And that's where you got to be. When you're running portraits, you're heard.
Right.
Otherwise, the rest of it, you're not heard at all. You don't want to be heard.
Right.
You want to be the fly on the wall.
And the other thing we've dealt with, having done it for so long, is we literally, like someone, I'm not religious at all. I got my own theories on how life works, but I have literally...
For next podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But I've literally been in more houses of worship of every possible kind than anybody else in my circle of life other than you guys. We have literally shot every possible thing you can think of. Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Indian, Pakistani, Jewish, Orthodox Jewish.
Ethiopian one time.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, every possible denomination of Christian, Catholic. I mean,
only I've never done is anarchist. I'm sure it'd be awesome though.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't want to be there for the after party for the anarchist wedding.
Only if it's documentary style, right?
I haven't done Wiccan either.
I haven't done pagans. I haven't been out in the woods and done covens.
Although I have done a wedding in the woods, but it wasn't pagan.
I haven't done that. But we've
been everywhere.
We literally have been everywhere and can be in any situation and understand the rituals of every one of those situations.
That's another important thing.
Which is very...
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. Just walking into a situation and knowing what's what.
I mean, the Catholic Church is the easiest one. Don't you dare step on that altar. Don't you dare. In some of them, don't you ever walk in front of the priest between the bride and the groom, or the bride coming down the aisle and the priest.
The cross turns upside down if you go on the altar.
Right.
But yeah, I mean,
in Orthodox Jewish situations, don't touch anybody. Don't be touching.
yeah, don't.
Very
Well,
important.
for me especially,
Yeah,
don't touch the men.
Yeah.
And we can't touch the women. It's
Yeah.
Sure.
because a lot of times you're like, hun, could you,
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, you
Yeah.
just have to know these things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like that helps you too when you're trying to book an event for yourself, where you're talking to somebody and you're like, okay, where's your event taking place? They tell you I'm in Bethel of Cedarhurst. Right off the bat, it's probably gonna be an Orthodox event.
Right.
Going into it, be like, is there a tishon bedecking?
Right.
Someone who just gets in the industry, they have no idea. They're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I take amazing photos. They have no idea what a tishon bedecking is. They don't know anything about these terms at all.
Right.
And they're not going to know how to capture that event one bit.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's great to have that advantage and that knowledge of people, too, to know these things.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the only way
especially
you're
for
gonna do
something
it.
like that.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
the
for
Five
sure.
Towns, a Tishon V'Dek, it's like
Yeah.
a mosh pit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to battle your way in.
And we're talking about, in this particular case, we're
Orthodox.
talking about Orthodox
Yes.
Jewish,
Yes.
and Tishon B'Dekin is where the bride and the groom are separated before the ceremony, and there's a ceremony
Yeah.
where the men they're kind of
They're praying.
They
praying.
yeah, they pray.
The ketubah is signed, which is a wedding contract, and it's brought into the bride.
They dance the groom in.
They dance
Yep,
him in, and then
he veils her.
He
Yes,
veils her,
yeah,
and,
to make sure he's marrying. who
But
he's
that's a
supposed to marry.
very specific thing to
Yeah.
know.
Yes.
And Indian ceremonies have similar things where the groom comes in. I did one where it depends on what neighborhood you're in.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
he comes in on a horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes a Ferrari.
Sometimes a Ferrari. Sometimes they walk down.
Sometimes both. We had that over
I
the
did
summer.
one in Central Park where he came in on an elephant.
That's
Oh
amazing.
wow, I haven't seen
And I
that.
thought to myself, I think M. Night Shyamalan was at that wedding.
Yeah.
But I
that's
thought
amazing.
to myself, I said, first of all, where do you get an elephant?
Yeah.
Do you have to wait for the circus to come into town and you rent them?
The circus doesn't have
Yeah,
them
because
anymore.
they don't have them in
Well, this
circuses.
was a while
They don't
ago.
have yeah.
This was a while ago.
They don't have them in zoos.
That's how old I am. The elephant was actually part of the wedding. But I mean, these are the kind of things.
It was a woolly mammoth.
That's right. That's how fucking old I am. There was fucking T-Rex came in. So when people are looking at the cost, which sometimes is prohibitive for events and weddings, this is what you're paying for. You're paying for
Absolutely.
the expertise, the tact, and the artistry to know how to do that, how to manage that, so that at the end of that day, that was 12, 13 hours long,
Yep.
where my ribs are screaming, my back is screaming.
Yeah, back, knees.
And then, and that's Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Saturday,
that's Friday.
Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah.
And 14 hours.
Especially if you're thinking about an Indian event. You're
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
a 3-day event itself.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
From henna party to pre-ceremonial party to the party.
Yeah. You didn't do that one with me 2 years ago. With
Yeah.
You did the July 4th
I
one?
did one of the days because I wasn't available the second
Yeah,
day.
I did the 3
you did.
3 days.
You did
That was
all
when
of
that was when your feet melted to the floor, right? Because
Yeah.
it was 105
It was
degrees.
105 degrees,
Yeah.
and it was the first one was down on the pier.
pier.
The pier, yeah.
and then
Chelsea
the-
Piers,
yeah.
Cipriani's was
Yeah.
the other one. And it was,
Yeah, he was on a horse, and then she came in on a Ferrari. Or
That was brutal.
Something.
That was a
Yeah,
brutal
that was a
weekend.
tough.
But yeah, I mean,
Thankfully, I
that's,
wasn't there.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we do. All right, so that's the event stuff. Let's just talk about your careers in general. Are there, because I want to pull some of these into the thing when I cut this together, are there shots that you remember that you have that are your favorites, where you're like, fuck, I really nailed that. I got that light. I did this. I mean, who wants to go?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one. It was May, probably about 2 years ago, and it was an important wedding for me. It was someone who I really, really liked, and I knew if I did a great job, it'd be really good for the company I worked for, where it would bring them a lot of business. So I know I had to be on my game, which I always want to be on my game, but I got to hit these marks. She had a very rough day. I mean, I was her psychiatrist for sure, and I remember we got to the venue. It was very humid out, but it was nice still. All of a sudden, it got black. I'm like, oh, shit. I come in the building. I think you might not have been an event, but I got in the building. All of a sudden, downpour. Literally downpour. I'm like, I got an idea. I'm like, just stay right there. I tell my assistant, grab me this strobe, grab me 2 strobes. Let's go real quick. I set up 1 strobe on the front with, like the flap up, which I never use the flap up. I'm like, let me use the flap up.
It's like a little bounce.
Yeah, the little
bounce
bouncy card.
card.
I'm like, let me use the flap up, which I never do anymore. Like, that was when I first started. I used to flap up in the reception room. I'm like, let me do the flap up. I'm like, I need a soft light, but enough light. Then I put my flash outside in the pouring rain. Full power. I broke the flash. The flash broke.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But I got this shot where it was literally them, like, nose to nose, smiling, holding each other, backlit.
Rain.
Where rain was just pouring on. You have no idea where they are.
Right.
And so I was like, where was that shot taken? I'm like, the Inn at New Hyde Park. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, like.
See, and
Nice.
that's the other thing. The equipment we spend money on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sacrificed that.
That was
flash.
a $600 loss.
Yeah.
But it was worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
It was worth it for that one picture because you know what? Whatever, I don't care. At the end of the day, I got that shot. That's still her profile picture. That's a picture she shares on her anniversary
I know who
every
you're talking
single year.
Right.
And like that was a money shot.
And
Like,
I was
money.
on a job with you one time. We worked this one venue that's a very popular wedding venue out here called the Crest Hollow Country Club.
Oh, very popular.
And there's just so many places you can shoot in these things that are the same.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the one spot that you never get, and we shot a winter one. There was like
The driveway.
I just got that.
I know. I think I was with you on that one.
Yes.
too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it was a driveway shot that
Yeah.
nobody got, and you were and for that because it was empty. We were the only job
There was
there.
no other weddings there that day.
We managed to get this shot, and that became kind of their
It's
calling.
literally
It's like the
their
famous
money
picture
shot.
now, yeah.
Yes, it's a famous picture for them. It's their money shot.
Yeah. Everyone wants
Yeah.
it, and very, very few people can.
You can't get it.
get it.
Everyone can't have it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
that. And I have one more too at the Plaza Hotel. I did this amazing room shot at the Plaza Hotel. I did like
I know who you're talking
a
about.
super slow shutter speed. I'm like, I did like F24, whatever it was. It was like crazy. And it actually got published in one of the magazines.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, awesome. And I was like a baby when I did that. Well, not baby. I mean,
I think I was probably on that job with you.
Yeah.
You were.
You were. Yeah.
You and John Harrison.
That's
Yes,
exactly who it was.
yep.
And I remember taking that room shot. I was telling him, like, can everyone get the fuck out of my room? And I'm doing a slow shutter speed, and like it's like a 6-second slutter. A 6-second slutter. A 6-second shutter. And I'm like, damn, like that.
So
looks
just so
good.
to explain, a slow shutter is when you're leaving that shutter open for a long time
Get all
to
the light in.
expose all the light, but any movement in there is going to cause motion.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you want, because basically your goal, shoot like a room shot, is your ISO to the floor as low as you can get it, which is the ISO.
Right.
100, maybe even lower if you can get it lower. And sharp as can be with the f-stop up, and you got to drop that shutter to the floor. And yeah, like those are like 3 shots that always stick out to me.
All right.
Like that I feel like, yeah, I hit that.
How about you? Any naked ladies? Anything? Oh, I always go there. But
Yeah. No.
what are some of the ones that you took that you're proud of?
I mean, relating to event photography, there was this one couple where I love the snow, and it was snowing on their wedding day, and they didn't want to go outside because they didn't want to get their hair wet, and I was like, I'm gonna make you go outside during the reception. I'm like, I usually for couples, I'll say, do you want to go out for night shots? No.
By the way,
Okay.
when I'm working with you on those, I don't want to go outside.
I know.
You make me go
Yeah,
outside.
that's why you go
Is
to
it
you
where-
go to the couple and you go, you don't want to go outside, right?
Is it weird
No,
that I
right?
pray for rain and snow out
Yeah,
at
yeah.
nighttime?
And
I'm
I'm
weird
like,
like
son
that.
of a bitch, he's gonna make me go outside.
Yeah. So
Like, let's hope it rains.
this particular couple, like it was those fat, snowflakes
Yeah,
falling.
big chunks.
And at one point the groom he didn't know I was there, and I heard him go, "We gotta hide from Melissa before she sees these snowflakes." And I was right there. And he went, "Ah, damn it!" So I let them have their reception, and it was like my time to leave. It was before, like I
Was
think
this the flower fields?
Yes.
I
Oh,
was
yeah,
on
it's
this
a
job.
great
Yeah.
shot.
I was on
I
it.
it
love
was
that
like a
shot.
half an hour before the party ended, and I was like, I'm not leaving until I get this shot. And I like stalked them around. I was like, I don't do this to anybody. You have to come outside. We have to do this shot. And it came out gorgeous again because the weather helped it.
Right.
That was stunning.
Backlighting the
it's
snowflakes, like it was beautiful. And that was their thank you card, that was their blow up
Sure.
picture. They were like, okay, we understand now. So it was like a partially, I love the image, but
the
it was
worth.
also like the worth of getting them to appreciate it too.
And this is what people should understand too about your wedding vendors, your wedding photographers, your artists that are working with you. They're artists because. See, I wasn't the artist. I think I left. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna go outside?" I don't fucking know.
Because I stayed because I was like, I'm gonna regret it. I'm gonna be pissed.
But
you did shoot the snow. You went and
did
shot the
I
snow.
I shot it, but I had enough of the snow by then. But you, as an artist, it wasn't just a job.
Yeah.
It was like there's something
needed
here.
that.
I got to get this. I know it's there, and you went out and got it. And again, both times, but in 2 of those examples, it's backlight.
Yes.
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 It's
such an
artificial
important
backlight
thing.
in both.
Yes.
But it's something about creating texture and depth by using the light and controlling light from
Yeah.
behind to frame your subject and the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do now, some of the boudoir stuff you do. First of all, why'd you get into doing that? And boudoir, basically, it is what it sounds like. It's It's
lingerie
shots.
Yeah.
And what are people getting them for? Are they like gifts for the fiance, or is it just for their own?
It's honestly, I mean, even if they're like, oh, I want to do it for my husband, it ends up being more for them than anything else. It's kind of it's an empowering thing. So, you know,
let's go with that.
Yeah, we're constantly we're constantly, you know, throwing it, you know, all these magazines, they're starting to deviate a little bit from it. Like I just saw Victoria's Secret has plus size models now, and which is, they never had that.
Right.
But you know, we're constantly like beauty products, hair products, like it's, you know, it's always like this, you never look good enough, you always have to fix yourself, you need to work out, you need to eat healthy, you know, which you should, but to some degree.
Drink your water.
Yeah, drink your water. You know, it's constantly thrown in our face, so it's nice to have these women, as they are, do these shoots and feel good about themselves as they are. You know, one of my favorite ones I did recently was she's a mother of two, and you know, they were planning on having another child, and she's like, I'd like to do a shoot, you know. She's like, my husband says I'm sexy, you know, you don't always feel sexy. She's a nurse, you know, she works, you know, in scrubs all the time. Right. So, you know, she did the shoot and she was just like, it was for him, but I feel so good. It made me feel so good. And that's why I started to really pursue it. Right. Just because of what it does, you know, to the self-esteem.
Right. And as far as the craft of it, is there a particular kind of etiquette you're coming in with? Like, how do you approach the whole, do you have a layout on how you want to do it, or do you just kind of wing it when you get there? Do you help them pick out their thing?
It's a combination of everything. I have a guide, you know, to prep them for it. I have professional hair and makeup do their, you know, so they don't have to worry about that or stress about that. When they come, you know, I have them lay out everything that they brought as far as lingerie. I have a client closet, you know, of stuff that I can lend to them, which is my shoot that I did yesterday. I ended up having her use a couple of the things that I have.
They're washed, I assume.
Yes. Actually, two of them have the tags on them still. So.
You can return them.
Yeah. But, you know, just like to, you know, we plan it out pretty much on the spot. You know, it depends on, you know, and I like to, like, again, yesterday, you know, I started her off in something that was a little bit more covered. It was more like a camise, you know, type thing, where it's basically just like a short dress, you know.
A chemise.
Chemise, yeah. And boudoir.
It's a great word.
Right, I like it.
But, you know, it's just a matter of, like, how they feel.
I would think you can get a little more creative with your use of lighting and how you do lighting. It can be a little more noir-y.
Yes, and that's why I like it, because it's obviously a much slower pace. It's my time. It's in my home studio. Right. So I can control, you know, all of it.
Right. And talking about being a therapist and being an advocate for the client, that's a real hand-holding situation, because they're very vulnerable and they're not used to doing that kind of stuff. Right. I walk around naked all the time, but not everybody does that. I wear a thong on most event jobs, but not everybody does that.
Right, exactly.
So how do you handle that?
I mean, you know, exactly that. You know, you walk them through it, and that's why I start with something that's more covered. You know, we started with that, and then I got her into like a bodysuit, and then we got her into a bra and panty
so it's
set.
Like you break it down.
Yeah, you know, and some people don't care. Some people
like
are like, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Break it up. But yeah, she, you know, just got progressively more comfortable. Like, you start to, as you know,
right.
The client, they start to feel like, okay, it's not as hard, it's not as scary as I thought it was.
Do you think it's, I mean, obviously it's to your advantage, but do you think it's something easier for you as a female to do? I mean, if Mike and I want to go try that tomorrow, it's going to be a more difficult sell, I think.
I'm in a bunch of groups.
Ed does a lot of boudoir shoots.
I was gonna say I'm in a bunch of groups online for boudoir photographers. I invited Mike to one, actually, and there's almost every day where a guy says, you know, do you think I can do it? Do you know, because I'm a guy? And the responses are, you know, like 95%, absolutely you can. You just have to make them feel comfortable. Sure. There's ways around it, you know. you just have to be professional. Of course, you're always going to find the creepy old men that want to.
Yeah.
Some of them are wedding photographers.
slide
Not
through
you.
No, I've done a couple boudoir shoots on weddings that on
Yeah.
the day of.
I've had those.
Yeah, and I'd never recommend it to anybody.
No, it's exhausting and it's very
Yeah.
demanding on the body. Like by the end of the shoot yesterday, I was like, "Are you done? You're done, right?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore." Even just demonstrating like some of the positions, like I'm like my back hurts from it.
Right,
It's a
right.
lot of exaggerated.
Right.
You want to accentuate curves and hide curves.
And you're right. I've worked with photographers where they wanted boudoir video and photography before they're getting ready.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
this day is already tough.
Like,
Yeah.
yep, I suggest not doing it.
Yeah.
And, I said to the girl, I'm like, you sure you want to do this? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I need like 45 minutes
Yeah.
additional in time at least. She's like, okay, not a problem. And I remember her day was already like a 10-hour day, something like that. So maybe like 11. But because the holding the breath and the breathing and the positions, sucking in, things like that, like, that stuff takes a toll on the body. And she was like sleeping halfway through her reception.
Yeah.
I remember looking at her. She's at her day. She's on her cell phone, looking. Everyone's partying, and she's on her phone. I'm like, "You all right?" She's like, "I want to go home."
Yeah, that's it.
And then I remember coming to the studio and telling me, she's like, "You were right to not do that the day of."
Yeah, that's a whole other
Yeah.
shoot. That's a
Yeah.
different.
But she
one.
liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's and again, you're up against the clock on an event like that. So, all right. So, and the other thing that you do you do this as well? Do you do infants and stuff too, right?
Newborns, yeah.
Newborns, like little peanut thing.
Yeah,
like
like
I tried it out. I did not like it. It wasn't for
Yeah.
me.
because they're not talking back to you.
It's
they're not laughing at his jokes.
Yeah.
Gets really upset.
Too much work.
They look kind of like
Is
him.
that bad to say? It's
It's-
too much work.
It requires an immense amount of patience, and I mean, I did a newborn shoot last week, and I sat with the baby. I sat holding the baby for 45 minutes to an hour before I took a single shot. So yeah,
Yeah.
it requires a lot of patience. And then, okay, you think the baby's sleeping, and then I have like a test. I pick up the arm, and if they tense at all, I'm like, he's not sleeping. I can't put him down yet.
So it has to be done kind of when they're out cold, and
Yeah,
you
that's
stick
the
them in a
easiest.
little bird's nest or whatever you
Yep.
put them in.
A boat.
A boat, little hat.
Little boat. Yeah, it does require a lot of patience, and I joke around with the parents, and I say it's like 10 minutes of pictures, but 20 minutes of waiting for him to fall asleep, and then 10 minutes of pictures, and then 20 minutes of waiting.
It seems to me that would require actually liking children, so I'm off that.
Well, I love children. I do. I love babies. I love all of it. I love it. It was too much. Like, it's too much. Like, the baby's fussy, and I sit around, I'm like, oh, man, I'm wasting time over here. I'm like,
Now I've gotten, I know all the tricks for it because I've taken all these courses, and
What are the tricks? You mean tricks just to get the kid in position, or actual photography tricks?
no, to handling the baby.
Handling the baby. Yeah, because I would think you know how to shoot the picture.
Yeah, that part, that's the easy part for a
Yeah.
newborn shoot. But swaddling them, how to swaddle a baby. Nobody knows how to swaddle a baby. I'm teaching the parents during the shoot how to swaddle the baby.
That sounds violent.
I shall swallow this child.
Wrap.
Yeah, I got it.
Holding them in position and lulling them to sleep. I have an app on my phone that's white noise to calm them. It mimics sounds they would hear in the womb.
Next time we go to the Bronx, and
Yeah, I'll do that in the car.
play that
In
for
the
me?
car, yeah.
because I would.
And bring your heating pad for him too.
Yeah,
Underneath him.
yeah. I have
little
a
blanket.
space heater. There's a bunch of tricks, and then when they're about to fall asleep, I'll go like this on their face, and that usually gets them to finally relax their face and
You
go
could
to
do
sleep.
that too.
Yeah,
You could do that.
That's
for me. All
yeah.
these things would work for me.
Yeah, these are things that all work for adults too.
Yeah, that totally works for me. So you're gonna get to practice
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
like 2 weeks.
2 weeks, God willing, 2 weeks. Hopefully not much longer than that. If it has to be longer, my wife cannot take it much longer.
Wow.
I mean, if it happens this weekend, cool. We're to that point already. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
going to be a dad. And,
Yep.
here's the thing about planning a wedding, because we all know each other and we've worked with each other for many, many years. And Mike, was it 2 years now? You married?
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years, November
A little
1st.
under 2 years, yeah.
So when Mike got married, I was one of the videographers. There was a whole team of people, and you were a guest, but you were one of the
Yeah, but
photographers.
She came there a couple hours early.
He asked me to
and
shoot, and
spread
I
the
went,
love.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I want to be a guest.
But talk about a guy who planned out his day around where the sun was going to be.
Yeah.
And November 1st in this area is the peak moment of the leaves.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
used to be earlier, but
Yeah.
now, I guess the ice age is coming
Yeah.
or whatever, and things are different. But we worked that venue.
Yep.
We followed his plan to how that backlight was going to. And
I shot there 3 weeks in a row before.
3 weeks in a row before to know where he wanted to be at what spot.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want that event. I want that event. I'm shooting that event.
And it was, and the pictures are, phenomenal.
They were
beautiful.
It was Eli and Jing and some of the other photographers we work with worked on that, and the
Yeah.
videos are great.
Melissa.
Melissa, just great stuff. But that was knowing you like going into a new place. That was him knowing the back of his hand, knowing
Yeah.
that venue and where the light would fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty magical to say the least. Like the portraits came out perfect. I
Yeah.
couldn't be any happier.
The sun
it was
was-
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a beautiful day.
We got very lucky because it was raining all week long,
Yep.
and like my wife had a breakdown the Sunday before. She's like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "It's gonna rain on our wedding day." I'm like, "Relax, we don't know that." That Thursday before, it was like a wind tunnel,
Right.
and then it was great that day. It was like 55, a little breezy,
Yeah.
but it was comfortable. It was
It was
perfect.
a great day. We got some great footage, got some great.
The next day was 70 degrees, but we're not going to talk about that one that much. But
So
yeah.
let me ask you this question. All right, so going forward in your careers, I mean, obviously the events. First of all, I'm discovering, and like we talked about briefly before, I am in nowhere near the physical condition
Sure.
that I was in when I was doing 95 jobs a year,
Yeah.
and four quadruples and triples.
I
And
still don't know how you do that.
I mean, I was one of the few doing banging out four in a
I
row.
don't think
and-
you were the only.
I probably was the only one. But my body took a tremendous
Yeah.
beating. And now, it's after COVID and everything, it's just not in the physical condition. So if we have any kind of schedule like that again,
Sure. Oh, man.
I'm going to
Yeah.
be, you're going to be wheeling me into some of these.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing these, right? We'll be doing these events. But is there anything you want to do either in that area or in some other type of photography? Or are there's, like, do you want to do travel photography? You want to do, like, what do you want to do as an artist with that tool? Is there something that you dream of doing?
Go ahead, Melissa.
Well, that's why I started doing or focusing more on the boudoir, because I want to step away from the event photography for exactly that reason. My body can't handle it anymore. I have a, they say tennis elbow. I'm calling it camera elbow, which is picking up the camera, on repeat. It's and then having not worked and not having that, I guess the muscle memory is not really there anymore.
Right.
So, these few events that I did do this last year, I was like, wow, that's new.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing before.
Yeah.
So I, instead of, I'm tired of the long day. I also get what I call a wedding hangover the next day, where I physically feel hungover. It's, dehydration.
Sure. Oh, sure.
Again, with the water.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why I want to move into, I'd like to push more towards like the newborns, the families, the boudoir photography. And
And is it, aside from the physical thing, is it artistically satisfying? Is there something different about doing
definitely.
straight
I feel like, in 2019, I had a rough year event-wise, and, that was before the pandemic, where I just felt like beat down, where I felt like I was going against the grain, or, swimming,
Right.
trying to swim against the current.
Whatever metaphor you want.
Yeah, whatever, any of those metaphors. It wasn't working.
You were a salmon.
Yes,
It's spawned.
yes.
All right.
And the brides and grooms were the
Yeah,
bears.
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
But yeah, I had a really rough year, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And then having all of 2020 essentially cancel,
Yeah.
I was like, I really don't want to do this anymore. I'm probably one of the few people that's kind of content with not doing that. Like, obviously not financially,
Right,
but
sure.
I felt like almost like a sense of relief not shooting all those events. So that's when I started to think a little bit more about it, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I think the time has come.
All right, so you can segue into a different artistic expression, and that's always going to be important to you. It's not just the job; it's that you're expressing yourself.
Yeah,
right? As well.
exactly.
How about you? Is there stuff you want to do?
I like what I do.
You like the event stuff?
I like what I do. I love what I do, actually. I don't want to do as much. Is that the word? Actually, I'm content with the amount I do. I just want to do less for others. Does that make sense?
Shoot more for yourself.
Yeah, just do more for my own business, my own company, and really just build some of my own things a little bit more. This way I don't have to rely on somebody for 70 weddings a year. I can rely on myself for 30 weddings a year.
But it's definitely the event stuff.
I love events. I can't see myself not being a wedding photographer anymore. Like, that's who I am. I feel like that I'm happy.
Dude, that is who you are.
Yeah, I'm happy.
I've seen hundreds of wedding photographers, and you know how to do the day.
I'm very happy when I do it. And I love doing it. I love the planning process of it. And I just love shooting it. I really do love my job. I wouldn't be happier doing anything else. I tried during the pandemic to try something else. I'm like, I could do sales for anything, which I can.
Yeah.
It sucked. It sucked. I'm like, this is boring. I'm like, this isn't fun. I'd rather talk to somebody about their wedding. And I caught myself at work talking to people about weddings.
That's when you know.
Yeah, that's when you know. And I said, you know what? I'm like, this isn't for me. I'm like, let me get back into what I know better. And, we have a pandemic. Let me shift to what I can do and how I can build myself. And it's been on a great track so far. I mean, I have a lot of my own weddings booked for next year, which is awesome. I'm still going to work for other people because, money's money.
That's part of the deal.
But the goal is in the end to be 50-something years old and just be for me and nobody else. And that is really where I want to be. Where I don't have to pick up a camera at 55, 60 anymore because I'm kind of good where I'm at. Yeah. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, well, just hitting 50 myself.
It's probably not realistic.
My body is telling me,
but
listen to Mike, because you're not gonna be able to do it much longer.
Yeah,
I've put myself.
I'm not the bull that I was.
I put myself to 60 years old. 20 weddings max a year at that point is where I want to be, and family portraits. I can shoot family portraits like all day long.
Yeah.
Right, and
easy.
At that point, you should be at the place where you're just like, Bobby, set up 2 pro photos over there.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm gonna look at this shot.
Yeah,
where you're not lifting and carrying, because that's the other thing we do is. This is a physical gig, and to do that for that long is hard to do, and it just takes away.
My camera bag weighs almost as much as me.
Yeah, and for me, I'm sure it doesn't do this as much to you guys, but for me, it really becomes a struggle to remain an artist.
Yes.
Because you're like, let me just get this. Let me just get the shot, and rather than get the shot, you're like, please God, make it stop.
Yeah.
Make the pain stop.
Yeah.
And I'd like to get to a place where I'm not thinking along those lines either. I don't know if I'll get there, but we'll keep
I do want to also get like the teaching aspect of it. Like, I love that. Like, I would want to get into teaching people how to become photographers and how to do this, because when I was trained from others, I didn't learn from people really. Like I said, I learned what not to do. Right. I learned from YouTube. That's like really where I learned a lot what I do and how to shoot things and how to shoot them properly.
Right, but you also, if I can say this, because I know you had an eye and an instinct on composition. Like, in other words, you can learn that. Somebody can tell you what a good frame looks like.
Yeah, but if you don't see it, you don't see it.
But you see it. You saw it right away. That's why you accelerated so quickly.
Yeah, if you see, you see it.
And you understood when you were told what light effects were. You picked it up and grabbed it. And it's very, very fast.
Yeah, I remember a good friend of yours, Dan Brennan, one wedding. He was a wedding at a temple, and I was just assisting. And I'm shooting something. He's like, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just taking a picture of it. He's like, stop taking pictures and start making art. I'm like, all right. I'm like, and those things resonated with me over the years, and they stuck with me. And like you and him have like huge effects on my life, like for real. Like honestly, like if it wasn't for you and him, I don't know if I'd be where I'm at right now.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, but very, very honest about it, because I appreciate the people who've taught me a lot. Melisa as well. If it wasn't for Melisa, I probably wouldn't have made certain steps in my photography either. Like, she's like, shoot raw. Why are you not shooting raw? I'm like, it's a lot of work.
The first job we ever worked together, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to edit that later on. She's like, no. She's like, do it. And you know what? It brought my photography to another level because I was able to manipulate much better my photos.
Sure.
Yeah.
Raw basically means
digital negative.
It's not compressed. It's not a compressed image. It's a digital negative, and you have a lot more latitude to fix things later.
Yeah.
And even
not just fix it, but be more creative with it too. Where you can do these great little techniques where you're doing a certain type of editing style.
Right. Once you start shooting JPEG and smaller,
you're trapped.
Things are baked in.
Yeah, you're trapped in that,
and you can't get out of it. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the first couple of years was all JPEG. I'm like, 2-3 years, JPEG. And she's like, no, what are you doing, raw?
Right.
I think I
Like-
converted the whole studio that we shoot for to,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they,
which caused problems
I'm
actually.
sure it did. Yeah. Well,
It did cause problems.
Because then it would take us 4 weeks to get a wedding in.
I helped convert that same studio to understanding using when the DSLR things came in, to
Yeah.
understanding depth of field
Yes.
in video. Like if you want it to look like a movie, you have certain things you have to do.
There's certain
Yeah.
things you got to do. Yep.
Things, equipment you have to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, we helped push the industry forward, I think, and I'm proud of the work we do. It's hard work.
Yeah, it's definitely hard
hard work. But I'm proud to do it.
It is very gratifying, though, in the
Yeah,
end.
especially when you talk to the couples afterwards and
Yeah.
you know you hear it from them.
And there are moments in all these events where if you catch yourself hooking into the truth of the day when it's not just a gig, when for me, I'll give you an example in video. If I have to mic the groom, so I can hear what he's saying.
Or peeing.
Or peeing, yeah.
By the way, always peeing. As soon as I put the mic on, he goes and pees.
Yeah.
I got to cut that channel out. But there's moments, touch of a hand, and that one word that nobody else in the room can hear,
Yep.
but me
Yeah.
and her. And it's like, wow. And it's the same when you see that picture.
Yeah.
That's like off in the corner, or the truthful moment between the portrait that you can capture that nobody else captures. Nobody else gets to see that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, people ask me to be a guest, like a guest at their wedding, and it's like,
Yeah, like me.
yeah, well, all right, and it's like I'd rather shoot it.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm a
I'll
terrible.
say I'm making you a guest. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. You get married.
I want to hang out with you.
No, that's
Russ.
cool.
I want to hang out with you.
Yeah. All right. It's going to be something like this, except without this. But first of all, I'm a terrible guest because it's like being an actor in an audience at a show, or a football
Critiquing.
player
Yes, you don't have to act
on the
with
sidelines,
me.
and you're just like, you want to do something about it. But you also have the best seat in the house. We have the best seat in the
Yeah.
house for
Absolutely.
every moment
Yeah.
of the thing, and we kind of guide the day. So.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the coolest part of the gig is we're kind of the captain of the ship all the way through.
I love being bodyguard too.
Yeah, that's always
It's
fun.
like an annoying aunt or uncle. That's yeah. I'm sorry. I'm
Like,
sorry.
get them
I
away
need
from
them.
me.
I need them.
Yep.
What do you want to do? Do you need to go somewhere?
Right.
Are you okay?
And I
See, there's things you do like about it. That's
Yeah,
why I think
definitely,
you're going to
definitely.
miss it a little bit if you're not doing it.
Yeah,
That's why
but I definitely want to do it less.
you got to keep your toes in there a little bit because you're too good to not do it. That's my personal opinion. You're too good not to
So I'll
be
be your
involved.
second then.
That sounds great to me. I love that.
there you go. A team is made, right?
I love it. Good thing we didn't start our company together that we were talking about starting for years.
Yeah.
Because then she'd leave me in the dust.
Well, before we finish up, because we're just about done, let's talk about that for a second. Where do they find you, and where do they find you? So where do we find Melisa?
Mine's just on Instagram. I'm just Boudoir by Melisa M.
Okay.
And just my website's melissamiracolo.com.
Okay. And
I'm Michael John Photography on Instagram. Very straightforward. Michael John, I think it's _ photography. Website is under construction currently. I'm revamping at this point.
Right.
Because I'm really building a lot of content right now, and I want to be very picky about what I put on my website.
okay.
So that's actually in the process
As
of
you
being
should.
built. Yeah. So that should be up and running hopefully maybe May or June.
And we're both associated with a studio. We should give them a shout out.
Yep. Glenmar Studio.
Glenmar Studio.
If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
So absolutely huge shout out to Glenmar.
If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't know you guys. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
And aren't you part of another team or something? Isn't there?
Monarch, yeah.
Monarch Photography.
That's where I do all the newborn photography, families, and weddings.
Okay.
Personal weddings. So Monarch Photography New York. That's at Instagram. And
Okay. Monarch Photography New York.
our website is currently under construction too.
A lot of construction going on.
Yeah.
2020 was a lot of content.
That's what the winter's for. Yeah.
That's right.
You know, you'd be surprised that a COVID year, I had so many
Yeah.
more shoots happen that I normally wouldn't have happened. I have so much content I haven't even been able to put out yet. And it's like, I just don't have the time for it. Baby on the way.
Yeah. Well,
Work
yeah.
gets backed up. There's
Yeah.
upswing again. It's like,
Well,
oh,
the one
crap.
thing this has done, and what it did for you for the boudoir, and what it did for you for focusing more on your own stuff, and like Ed, my producer over here, what I did, realizing that live streaming was going to be a thing, and you know, you found different ways to do the job. because people still want to get
Yeah.
their stuff done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They still want their event recorded. They
Yeah.
still want their live theater shot. They still want their wedding shot. But there's no audience. There's no crowd. There's no
Yeah.
grandma. Somebody's got to see it. So we had to stream it
Yep.
differently. We had
Yeah.
to get the equipment to do that stuff, and you refocused your whole thing, right? You
I did the porch pictures too when everyone was like really on lockdown.
Oh,
I,
were
was-
you,
I
were they
went to
stood out on
people.
their porch?
Yeah, I went to people's houses
Yeah.
and did family pictures. I stood in the street with my telephoto lens and I still haven't done it. We're coming on a year now. But whatever, it was free and I asked that for a donation, and my plan was to purchase gift cards for restaurants, local restaurants, and then give those gift cards to nurses.
Okay.
So, which I haven't done it yet because I've been so busy.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have
I didn't even know
literally-
that was a thing. Porch shooting.
Yeah.
Like the drive-by weddings. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I ended up doing a lot of them.
Wow. All right. So last thing, for somebody who, I already had my answer. For somebody who's looking to do this, I'd be like, don't do it. Just don't. Buy stock in Tylenol. But for somebody who wants to be...
Or cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
Yeah, crypto. Go crypto.
All right. For somebody who wants to be a photographer, whatever discipline of photography, event is, we've described it, we've laid
Yeah.
out pretty much how that works to a detail that probably people don't even never realize, so they get that part. But to be a photographer, what do you need? What do you need to have inside you? What should you do? How should you go about it?
Okay.
Because you guys came from two different angles. So.
Yeah. I mean, I would say just do it. Go out there and do it and put yourself out there and learn. Watch YouTube videos. If you want to work, if you really want to learn event photography, go assist somebody.
Yeah.
Become an assistant because everyone needs an assistant out there. Are you going to make a lot of money? No. But you're going to get a crap ton of knowledge. And that knowledge is going to be able to get you to understand how wedding works, if you want to be a wedding photographer per se, and understand the process of this shooting an event. If events aren't for you, still learn. Learning is everything. But make sure if you're going to buy something decent that I feel like is, a good way to put it out there. Don't buy just a piece of crap camera, in my personal opinion. You want to start with something that's pretty decent. And if you're buying, I say go mirrorless.
Yeah, that's the new thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that means the camera doesn't have a mechanical shutter anymore. It's
It's the new way of the world, and people are still fighting that changes that's happening.
I pioneered it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
People can fight all they want, but honestly, in a couple years, DSLR is going to be obsolete, and these mirrorlesses are taking over, and they are amazing.
Yeah.
They are.
It allows you to see what's really going on out there. Does it make people not know how to control shutters and apertures? Maybe. But in the end, you can still see what you're actually shooting.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got it. My settings are correct. I'm going to shoot that.
Right. So you're thinking apprenticeship is the way to go.
Sure.
Get under somebody's wing, but to learn the basics of photography, shutter, aperture, ISO.
Go watch some videos. Get some workshops in here. Yeah, they're free. YouTube's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Google University.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And piggybacking on that, don't pay for college for it.
You're still paying for it, right?
I'm still paying. Yeah. I borrowed, 50 grand, and I'm going to have paid back, 150 grand.
Yeah.
So
Right.
don't pay for college for that.
You don't need school to be a photographer.
No, you definitely do not.
Yeah.
I'm happy I did it. I love the experience. I got some really good friends out of it. But
school won't hurt if you want to go to school for business
Right,
to become
yeah.
a photographer.
Right.
Okay.
They go hand in hand.
yeah.
Business is business no matter what. Learning how to work social media is so important.
Yeah.
Just learning how to run a business in general, how to manage money. There's these things that you can't learn just from watching a video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So you do need some little bit background to run your own business. But if you just want to be a photographer, you can learn and be an apprentice. That's my personal opinion. And you'll get pretty far, I think.
Do you have to be an artist?
There's somebody that we follow, and his name is I think on Instagram he calls himself Born Uncreative because he learned according to him he didn't have a creative bone in his body, and he learned how to do everything through trial and error, through exactly what we're saying for people. It's
I wasn't an
Pi
artist.
Jersa.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's amazing.
I mean, he does on his Instagram cell phone photography and just how to take better cell phone pictures even. But he shows like his old work versus what he does now. His work is incredible, and he calls himself Born on Creative because he's like anybody can do it. He's a believer that anybody can do it is if you put the work in, if you have the heart, you know.
Right.
I really did not. I have no artistry in my background. Like when I used to draw the Ninja Turtles with all the muscles and the shells. Like I wasn't an artist. Like I might have been though on the inside. I just didn't know it.
I think so.
And it brought it out kind of.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's there in most people. I think everyone's an artist of some sort.
Right.
We're all artists.
Right.
We all just paint pictures with different brushes.
Yeah.
Oh wow! What a great little button you just put on that. Look at that! Look at Mikey go.
Thank you.
That was sweet. We just paint with different brushes. What? You should put that on your website. You should make T-shirts.
Yeah, there you
hats.
go.
Hey, we're all artists. We just paint with different brushes, man. So, all right. So, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Great snippet.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's about as good as it gets. I can't finish any better than that. So you guys, this is awesome. You guys are good friends of mine. Great colleagues, great artists. I think you're artists, whether you believe you came from that place or not. What you do takes a specific spirit, and the only way you can see the picture and the frame the way you want to see it, the way you want it to come out, is it has to be there before you take the picture.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's art. That's you can't explain that to anybody. That comes from somewhere else. And then the craft is using and understanding the tools to make it look like what you just saw in here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the professionalism is to do that in Brooklyn at 8 o'clock in the morning.
In July, in 100-degree heat.
Oh, yeah.
In 10 minutes.
With no food or water. Or bathroom break.
And a vendor screaming at you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you guys coming. This was awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I hope everybody learned a lot, and make sure we get some examples of the stuff we talked about. So I'll pop those in the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man.